Good morning, everyone. Warm welcome to one of the first, let's call it the fireside discussions of the National Manufacturing Institute Scotland's family. If I could ask all parties just to ensure that they are muted, just to inform you that this session will be recorded and will be uploaded on YouTube and also relevant marketing websites for those who are interested to view it again. What we'll be doing is we'll be kicking off with a roundtable introductions from the NMIS team. We'll give you an introduction to some of the activities that we've been up to. We'll then launch a bit of a poll to ask the audience three general questions of where they are on their net zero ambition. And then we'll open up the floor to questions. What I'd kindly ask is if you could raise your hand. We'll try to keep a track of who raised whose hand first, and then we'll open you to unmute yourself, introduce your company, and ask the panel what question you have. So we'll kick off. So my name is Paul Cantwell. I'm a Knowledge Exchange Fellow at the National Manufacturing Institute Scotland. I lead some of the strategic programs in resource efficient manufacturing, hydrogen economy and energy, and I also support the Cross Catapult programme entitled Enabling Conditions all around net zero, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail in a moment. I'd like to invite my colleague Iain to introduce yourself, please, sir.
Thanks, Paul. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Iain Bomphray. I'm the director of the Lightweight Manufacturing Centre, which sits under the NMIS umbrella. And the circular economy is fundamentally underpinning a lot of our strategic direction within the LMC. And as such, I'm happy to discuss that a little bit more today and answer any of your questions. So, thank you.
Yeah,
thank
Iain.
you. And over to yourself, Andreas.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Paul and Iain. So my name is Andreas Reimer. I'm leading the remanufacturing testbed in NMIS, which is one of the 5 strategic themes, working across the basically entire NMIS to remanufacture and repurpose components. So and very happy to answer your questions today.
Thanks, Andreas. So what we'll do is we'll just briefly go into some of the programs that we're working on at the moment and some of the themes that we're developing in the NMIS family. I'll start off and then go across to Iain and Andreas. So currently I'm working in the Low Carbon Manufacturing Challenge Fund. This was a program awarded by Scottish Enterprise, and it was focused on developing the appropriate support mechanisms for small to medium-sized enterprises to take advantage of the climate change in business growth, business opportunities. This will mainly be focused on creating a roadmap, a journey for companies who are new to net zero and trying to understand where do they start. We have service offerings such as life cycle analysis for products. We have things such as the Future SME, which is a bit of a self-assessment tool to understand how agile your company is and can adopt to new market drivers such as climate change or net zero agendas or legislation. We're also within the programme developing an awareness on the current standards and codes that parties should be aware of to understand how to appropriately run life cycle analysis or appropriate skills and training courses there are through CPD service offerings opening up within the NMIS family. We're also supporting companies in trying to identify the starter blocks of carbon accounting, because this could be different to life cycle analysis. It could be measuring your factory in terms of what carbon footprint you might have in your operations. We're also trying to map opportunities in the hydrogen economy for new supply chain creation across Scotland and the UK with appropriate interventions. Andreas, would you like to go next, sir?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, as I said, so I'm working on the remanufacturing testbed, which is a kind of cross collaboration across entire NMIS, and also the Catapult network. So and we're looking really from the value stream of remanufactured or component. So we're looking from cleaning, inspection, doing NDT and so on. So It's really more the technical part of what Paul just mentioned. So looking at NDT, cleaning, X-ray, then rebuilding, like using LMD, laser metal deposition, cold spray, and so on. Then moving into the post-processing, such as heat treatment, machining. Then obviously we need to look again into kind of metrology and lastly, obviously the testing. But throughout the entire kind of value chain, so we are busy, as Paul also mentioned, that's why we have a lot of tangents, is on life cycle analysis, carbon calculation, the capturing, validation, certification, looking into simulation to optimize the remanufacturing process, and also to understand the history of the components, but then also obviously working with the Manufacturing Skills Academy together to actually bring out courses around remanufacturing net zero. And obviously one big aspect is also the design for remanufacturing, which is actually in the beginning of a life of the component. So that's basically just kind of covering the some aspects of the area we're covering in the testbed.
Thanks, Andreas. Iain?
Yes, so the Lightweight Manufacturing Centre has been opened officially now for just over 2 years, and we set off straight away to provide some strategic direction and capability building that envelop the circular economy and net zero. So we have just briefly, we have 3 test beds, 2 of which are related to materials, and 1 is related to agile manufacturing. So those 3 test beds collaborate and are integrated together to provide the capability and the skills with which to kind of underpin some of the net zero challenges, particularly if you're making product or if you're looking to differentiate between different materials or systems or different priorities. So what we're able to do is to provide that kind of underpinning data with which you can make informed decisions for your business or your research. So happy to go into more detail and specifics of those, but that's an overview of a direction of travel at the moment.
Thanks, Iain. And it's worthwhile saying that as a group, a lot of our underlying kind of research or analysis of sectors is naturally showing that a lot of our greenhouse gas emissions or embedded carbon is associated with external supply and the provision of the feedstock materials into our supply chain. So it's important that we also recognise that, and we are reporting that to various government bodies to ensure that by the net zero journey, we are not offshoring the supply chain, and through the accounting frameworks that are undertaken to date, that again, that is not driving the supply chain to move away from the UK, but if anything, try to focus on creating more sustainable and environmentally friendly processes or manufacturing bases in the UK to drive that green job growth and green job opportunity or climate change opportunity in manufacturing sectors across the UK. So what we'd like to do now is just launch a few questions that would invite parties to participate. So if we could launch the first question.
No problem, Paul. This is the first one.
So if parties could just please select from the relevant response that they have and hit submit, and then we'll be able to see the result. We'll give a minute for parties just to select on where are you on your net zero journey. So you've either started, completed, or not considered this yet. And the reason why we asked this is in a recent study from the British Chambers of Commerce, it's actually shown that 1 in 10 companies have actually just started their net zero journey in measuring their carbon footprint, and currently only 26% of the large firms who partook in that study have also started to become more aware of what their associated carbon footprint is in their operations in the UK. So we'll just give that a little more time. So we've got 12 responses so far, and there's about 20-something people on the call, so we'll just give parties a bit more time. All you need to do is just select your response, just hit submit. It's anonymous as well, so we won't have any information on companies who responded how, so hopefully that will help parties. Slowly creeping up. Okay, we'll take it from there. So what the response is there's 71% of this group who have started, there is 6% who have completed, and there's 24% who have not even considered net zero in a current practice. So that shows that it's good. It shows that parties are beginning to become more aware that this is going to be a legislation driver, and that we have seen moves, particularly within public contracts, that parties need to show that they have a net zero strategy, they have clear measurable KPIs, and they are actually measuring their performance on this basis. We're seeing the same with CR&D funds, research and development funds, that this is now becoming a criteria that you will be scored against, and quite heavily in the acceptance or the award of fundings to help with innovation and technology development. If we could launch the second question, please.
No problem.
So again, parties, this is going to be anonymous. You just need to select the relevant response. Are you aware of the ISO or BSI frameworks? Yes, no, or help, in terms of you might be aware, but it's slightly confusing which direction to go in, or you're not necessarily aware and not sure where to start. So if you could please select the appropriate response, then we'll reflect on the answer there. So again, you just need to hover over or select the answer and then just hit submit. Okay, so at the moment we've got 17 responses. We'll go with that. So at the moment, 33% say yes, you are aware of the ISO and BSI frameworks associated to net zero. 44% say no, and 22% say, well, 26% just there, say help, in terms of this could be a confusing landscape. So one of the areas that we're partly interested in is to actually run events in collaboration with BSI, because there's various committees at the moment looking at the carbon accounting frameworks, the LCA frameworks and standards, and other such areas such as materials recovery, to actually run some awareness events to raise the profile of this, and also shine a bit more of a light of what's actually going on in these areas, and what industries are engaged, and what industries might like to be engaged, and who are the appropriate parties to contact, or if we could engage for you on your behalf. What we'll do is we'll launch the third question, please, Laura.
Okay.
Okay. Third question, are you aware of how NMIS can support in a net zero journey? There's a simple yes or no. So if parties could just start to respond to this. So far we've got 10 responses. I'm going to hold out for 19. If we can get those 19, that would be great. Please don't be shy. So at the moment we've got 16, so I'm just looking for another 3 parties if they're happy to submit. There we are, we've just about hit it there. So we have 41% saying yes, they are aware of the NMIS support value propositions in regards to the net zero circular economy area, and 59% say no. So we'd welcome feedback to this event of how you might like to be better informed in those service offerings or support frameworks around the net zero circular economy journey for companies in that area. What we're presently running is we are running awareness events where we're inviting parties who have already been operating servitization business models, remanufacturing capabilities, or circular economy baselines, where they can speak around their journey and inform companies what the steps that they took were, what the associated kind of timelines, level of investment, but also the output and the value add to the organisation. Because at the end of the day, this is all around sustainable business. This is all around ensuring that we keep the companies financially viable, the business models financially viable, and it's trying to unlock the opportunities in both efficiency, cost optimization, and productivity that can be had from adopting more sustainable practices and services in the areas. Laura, I think that was the final one, was it?
Yeah, I would like
That's
to add
correct.
also, obviously, so all of us, Paul, Iain, and myself, obviously, are more than happy, even after the event, because obviously we're in a very short time frame, to have, you know, more private discussions. If you are, because obviously you said, you know, you're probably not aware how we can support, to have those kind of closer discussions, more private discussions on how we can actually help you on your net zero journey, and basically take it from there. What are the options? Because it's not always, you know, a straight line. So sometimes you need to take a couple of curves. But as Paul said, we're there to support. And please reach out afterwards to us, and we can certainly bring you in touch with people, or or discuss with you directly.
Thanks, Andreas. So what we'd like to do now is open up the floor. If parties have any questions, we'll watch out for raised hands, and then we'll just ask once you're called out to please unmute yourself. Feel free to switch on your camera, introduce yourself, introduce your company, and ask the question. If you don't feel comfortable in verbally asking the question, and please type it in the chat box just with a Q in front so we can raise it as a question. And then we'll just go ahead and open it to the panel to provide a response. So I can't see any hands as yet. So what we can probably do is just go around the speakers and perhaps turn around and say, okay, in the previous 8 to 10 months, you know, what have we seen in terms of the net zero or circular economy that's been most of an eye-opener or interest in terms of movement within relevant sectors? I guess, Iain, I'll start with you and then go across to Andreas.
Yeah. I think the thing that's been most significant for myself is the backing of these various initiatives by substantial sums of money from UK government and Scottish government as well. I think it's really been been very important to us in helping create the the frameworks with which we can support companies. So it's enabled us to build capabilities, to expand our skills base, and it's really important area for NMIS to get involved in terms of informing public policy. I think we're very much have to have the ear of the various agencies, and both at kind of governmental and kind of industrial level. So I think for me, Paul, I think that's been the real really positive thing to come out of this, and to see the kind of groundswell of support that's available for us now. I think is really quite encouraging. And I think it's up to us now to convert that into very targeted and kind of strategic benefit for companies, research groups alike, because the circular economy will mean so many different things to so many different people. That we need to be quite agile and directed in how we support companies. So, I don't know if that, Paul.
Thanks, Iain. Yeah, that's a good response. Andreas?
Yeah, I can just kind of support Iain in his answer. So what I noticed is really in the last year, so where basically we maybe knocked on closed doors a year ago to get potential fundings for certain ideas. So now the doors really have opened. They actually asking us to come in whereby before there was always a roadblock and saying, okay, we don't consider X, Y, Z. So now really people starting to change their mind. I think it's also, as Iain mentioned, a very hard push, obviously, from the government, and actually forcing forcing companies actually to consider net zero. So, and obviously we, as a research and technology institute, are supporting those, and companies coming starting to come to us more and more and saying, okay, can we, how can we kind of progress on this topic to, for example, remanufacture, what technologies can we use? And we basically just supporting them there, and fund, as Paul mentioned in the beginning, so funding criteria is becoming more significant in terms of net zero. And obviously much more calls are tailored towards net zero. So if we wanted to do a project on remanufacture on net zero in the past, so it was sometimes quite difficult to get funding, but now funding calls especially made for net zero, which is really good, especially to support companies on developing their paths along that road. Yeah.
Yeah, and events like today have been really important in trying to take the pulse, if you like, of the environment that we're in, and trying to understand how we can best shape our response to you, our customers, I think, and we can take it forward.
Thank you, Iain and Andreas. And I think it's fair to say that what we're seeing is a mindset change in the final clients of the value chain, which is now driving a change down the supply chain to try to source more ethically, or to actually source from companies who understand what their carbon footprint is that adds to the final component, but also companies who are looking at how do they appropriately dispose of the assets at end of life and try to recover as much value from those assets. It sounds pretty sensible that you try to offset the cost of removing things from service. However, there's now the question of how they do it more green, or is there an opportunity to recover value and utility in the materials embedded within those products and services? Or within the food and drinks industry, what we're finding is there's more pressure on product services and kind of drink suppliers to actually show that they're ethically sourcing their food, but even the packaging, which is also part of the product, is appropriately utilised or potentially recovered. And we've seen this in a situation in the current climate, particularly within PPE. How can we, through the great work that's been done to establish more local content, more secure supply, can we help them to then appropriately deal with the waste streams that are being created in a safe manner, or start to investigate and explore means to recover those materials and reprocess them for appropriate, state of cleanliness or reuse, so that could be applied for the primary application or a secondary application in new areas. And that's where we see a huge push, especially as the UK, we don't necessarily have many natural resources, but we do sit on a lot of old assets being decommissioned, where we could be one of the countries that could lead on urban mining if we appropriately incentivise and establish the appropriate technologies to do it in a economically viable way. I see a question that's just come in that I'll ask the panel, and that was around how is net zero and circularity and sustainable connected. So I'll have a first go, and then I'll hand it across to the panel. So what we've done for the past 2 years is we've done a bit of an evaluation of high value sectors to establish where the greenhouse gas emissions are embedded, and to review the net zero ambition or sector strategies in those areas. And what clearly came out was that for us to achieve net zero, it's highly dependent on circularity of material flows, of recovery, reprocessing and redeployment, so that we don't necessarily run out of that natural resource, but also associated to the greenhouse gas emissions that we're creating during the processes is the need to adopt more sustainable processes. So how do we help the industry to become more carbon neutral in the operations, say for high energy intensive processes, or products that rely on quite a substantial amount of disposable packaging using conventional means, whether that's for controlling contamination or whether that's for the geometry of the shape and protecting the component during transition. We need to look at those areas to help to try to incentivize recovery of value and more sustainable practices where those materials are treated as an asset rather than a consumable. I'll go across to Iain next if you want to draw some analysis.
Yeah, just to follow on that, so two programs that we're currently building are Future Fibre and Sustainable Composites. So Future Fibre is trying to deal with the materials issue from its fundamentals, so creating polymers from either biomass, in this case, wood pulp, or paper making byproducts, and converting those into polymers. So we're trying to move away from the crude oil that's the basis of current mass production of polymers. So hopefully you can see that the benefit of that to the circular economy. So these are resources that are abundant in the UK. They're not going to satisfy the entire market in terms of plastics, but it's a step in the right direction. And building that kind of capability within the Lightweight Manufacturing Centre enables us to screen materials and to do that kind of fundamental and kind of translational research to get it into product. And then composite sustainability is dealing with that at the other end. So what do we do with all the wind turbine blades when they come to end of life? So currently they're being sent into landfill, which is completely unsupportable. So China, we found out this week that China's estimating that 750,000 tons per annum of end-of-life wind turbine blades will be coming offline by 2035. So we need to take those materials, separate them, and re-energize them, add more value to them. So, and simple to say, but it's very complex to make that commercially viable at scale. So, but we started that journey. These are the things that the big challenges that we try to address, and hopefully you can all see some benefit to us doing that. Andreas.
Yeah, very quickly, because I see there are a lot of other questions now. Yeah, so I think obviously the circularity and sustainability almost go really hand in hand, because obviously, for example, I'm looking at from, let's say, from a remake or remanufacturing point of view. So we want to basically use a component, I'm talking more about industrial component, so which we basically bring back into the life cycle, so generating a circularity. But obviously having this kind of resourcefulness of the material obviously creates the sustainability. So we don't need to we need to have less ore extraction and so on for new materials. So yeah.
Thanks, Andreas. So the next question is, do you have a view on any skill gaps in this area? I'll go to Andreas first for this.
Yeah, sure. So yes, so we actually have quite a bit of a gap in there. So because due to the kind of net zero agenda or kind of idea, so we still need the kind of traditional kind of craftsmanships. Yeah. However, the application, how we utilize those kind of skills is slightly different from the traditional manufacturing. So, and there has to be some education to be done. Also, new technologies like additive and so on are rising. So obviously those kind of new particular skills which needs to be trained. Also around kind of the kind of carbon calculation, and so there are a lot of kind of also softer skill sites and education which needs to happening, and obviously that's why we're working, all of us actually working very closely together with the MSA, the Manufacturing Skills Academy, and the main campus to actually educate people around net zero.
Iain, anything to add from a composite specific perspective?
No, I mean, I think we're very much on the journey. I think we there are a lot of challenges ahead, I think, and they will they will flush out a lot of the kind of skills gap that we have. But we're in a good place to fill those and to be able to signpost, different trainings and different staff to be able to help you.
Thanks, guys. It's worthwhile noting as well, so we have actually recently changed one of our master courses to actually incorporate remanufacturing. That was developed working very closely with two Scottish SMEs who provide remanufacturing as a service, and they'll be the first to pilot that with some of their engineers going back to university to do a master's. We'll also be launching in the next 2 months a specific CPD course. I'd call it 101 for remanufacturing for parties that will be free access to SMEs based within Scotland. And we'll also be doing one around circular economy principles. In the meantime, if you do have any specific interests or areas that you feel that you need to improve your knowledge in this area, please do drop us a line and we'll happily get in contact and provide a bit of guidance of where to start and what potential future events are coming up to help you on that journey. One of the other questions is around, are NMIS able to support in design products for the circular economy, e.g. design for repair? I'll quickly answer this one rather than going across the panel. Yes, we are. We've run programs with small to medium-sized enterprises to help them to develop product designs that are suited for disassembly, remanufacturability, but also linked to life cycle analysis so that we can work with your design team to make that informed decision. It's more complex with composites, but however that team can also support that through using life cycle analysis, carbon accounting tools, along with advancement in design tools to consider the end of life aspect or attributes, and also their support in the business model side of things from the business school around servitization business models and sustainable business models around kind of leasing and reversed logistics as well, which is part of the challenge in that area. One of the final questions, and just to note people, if we don't get to your questions, we'll try to write a written response. If you have questions after this event as well, please do feel that you can send an email to NMIS Inquiries, just reference this event, and it will find its way to the panel. So we've just got one around, my apologies, and we'll close it after this. Thanks, Kirsta, for your question, and it seems to be around you've established a very good process at the moment utilising circular economy principles through your internal closed loop recycling process and repurposing of heat. Brilliant. But we are in the initial stages of developing a further extension of our site and are keen to look at sustainability from the start. What would be the most important thing to consider? Well, it's not just one thing to consider. Where we'd perhaps come in is to actually help you look at the options to scale up your facility. We'd work with the Energy Systems Unit in the University of Strathclyde to support in energy audits, but also consider around the feedstock, potential reverse logistics, and also the implications of future facility designs as well to try to map out where the high heat spots might be and focus areas could be, and what the advances are in technology to maybe help drive down the carbon footprint that might be generated or improve the energy recovery. We're happy to take questions like that. We're happy to work with companies like that. And we do also involve other such parties such as Zero Waste Scotland and carbon accounting to make sure that there's also relevant awareness of funding to support these forms of investment of decarbonisation or making companies work towards their net zero ambition. And we're happy to take open questions like that. So looking through, I'd just like to say that we'll probably hold it there. I'm sure the panel and I would love to thank you very much for your participation today. These things aren't achievable without your involvement. We'd welcome feedback after this event. We will circulate a questionnaire just to have feedback from the participants to understand how can we improve. What future events would you like to see? Would you like to hear more from some of the parties that we've worked with to share their story, their journey in the net zero their net zero ambitions and their net zero strategy, and also what key areas do you feel that you need support as industry to help you on your net zero journey, to demonstrate that you are working towards that net zero ambition? And this is a journey. Things can't happen overnight. It's that relationship that needs to be developed and a clear roadmap for your own company and your own sector that you need to understand. Because although we might work in the same sector, our needs, our processes can be fundamentally different. So, gentlemen, any final comments?
Nothing from me, Paul, but yeah, thank you.
But there, thank you very much, everyone, to attend. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
thank you all, and we'll look forward to speaking to you and engaging with you at a future event. Bye for now.
Yeah. Thank you. See you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm just going to close down the meeting now.